The White House is blocking a move by the Office of Government Ethics to compile waivers of federal ethics rules that have been granted to officials hired into the administration from corporations and lobbying firms. At the same time, an anti-Trump legal group has filed suit to make those waivers public. The White House action, a letter to OJ Director Walter M. Schaub Jr. from Office of Management and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, was first reported by the New York Times. The newspaper had earlier published a detailed account of lobbyists turned appointees who were granted waivers and now oversee regulations they previously had lobbied against. With an ethics waiver, a federal official is free to act on matters that normally would trigger concerns about conflicts of interest or other ethical problems. Federal regulations say the waivers generally should be made public on request. The Obama administration routinely posted waivers online. The Trump administration has issued an unknown number and released none. Schaub notified the White House and federal agencies in April that OJ wanted to see all ethics waivers issued by President Trump and Appointees administration. He set June 1 as the deadline. The broad request is known as a data call. Mulvaney notified Schaub in a letter last week that the data call appears to raise legal questions regarding the scope of OJ and Appointees authorities. He said he wanted the data call put on hold until it is reviewed by the Justice Department and Appointees Office of Legal Counsel, which advises the executive branch on constitutional questions and limits of executive power. The move could block the request for waivers indefinitely. Under federal regulations, OJ is supposed to oversee all waiver decisions throughout the government. OJ has a right to review any waiver, said former OJ Assistant Director Stuart Gilman. Referring to the data call, he said, it and Appointees not like somehow or other this is a special case. An anti-Trump legal group, American Oversight, sued 8 federal departments and agencies on Monday, arguing that ethics waivers should be released under the Freedom of Information Act. American Oversight had previously filed FOIA requests. The Trump administration and OJ are fighting on other fronts as well. OJ earlier this month announced a new certification document that cabinet secretaries and other top-ranking appointees are fulfilling ethics agreements they signed before being confirmed by the Senate. Ethics agreements typically commit a nominee to avoid ethics violations through a blind trust, divestiture, recusal or similar action. The document must be signed by the official. As with tax returns and other federal documents, false statements run the risk of penalties. There was no previous oversight of compliance. The White House has raised a conflict of interest question to challenge newly appointed special counsel Robert Mueller, who will oversee the FBI and Appointees' investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 election. The issue is that other lawyers at Mueller and Appointees' former law firm represent presidential daughter Ivanka Trump, her husband, Jared Kushner, and one-time Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort. Mueller never worked for those clients, but under ethics law still could require a waiver for his new job. It and Appointees worth noting that, while the White House suggests conflicts for Mueller, it obtained an ethics agreement for EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt. He needed it because, in his previous job as Oklahoma Attorney General, he was a plaintiff in several lawsuits challenging EPA regulations. Last winter, Schaub used Twitter to exhort Trump into putting his hundreds of corporations into a blind trust. Trump instead put them into a revocable trust, where he can draw money from his businesses whenever he wants.